Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, this show promises to be one of the best, most epic, most elite, and gargantuan shows of all time in Heartpixel TV sports because I have one of my favorite YouTubers, one of my favorite Arsenal based YouTubers in the universe with me. And I am so happy, so privileged to welcome him. He's been an inspiration for me and my channel and for the content that I try and do and try and provide. He's been a constant therapy for me in many ways when it comes to supporting Arsenal, when it comes to finding out about the players, when it comes to knowing more about the club, being closer to the club from all the way here in Dhaka, Bangladesh. And this guy, he's based in the UK. He is none other than FK from Latte Firm, one of the best YouTube channel, one of the best content creators out there, in my opinion. And I'm sure you guys have seen this very happy face. This guy is so warm, so welcoming, and there's something so very wholesome about Mr. FK. I'm going to call you FK just so you know we stick to your YouTube name. So it was so great to finally get in touch with you. So FK bro, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Assalamu alaikum to everybody watching. Thank you, Shahnoor, for the invite. I wasn't expecting to hear from you, but I got your DM yesterday, and I thought, I started out a few months ago, and I've seen your channel. It's good. You have a lot of content. I particularly enjoyed the steak challenge that you had in a restaurant in Dhanmondi. That was very, very good. Disappointed you couldn't win it, but I watched all your content. Sorry if I'm embarrassing you. But it's really good to be on, and thank you for having me, and you're very kind with your words as well. So hello everybody, it's good to be here.
Wow, that is something. So here's a bit of a shocker. I am not very good with tech, and when I go through Twitter and I go through my feed, I'm usually just going through my feed for news and information from Arsenal-based journalists and some of my favorite YouTube channels, and I'm following all of your content, right? So, and as I'm going through it, I'm wondering, how can you message people on Twitter? And I never asked. So I swear, yours is the first time I tried messaging a person. I saw that in your profile, there's a mail icon. So I clicked on it and I'm like, oh, you can message people. So I wrote down the message that where I rambled a bit and I explained a bit about what I do and how I follow you. And when I finished writing it, I'm like, I got a reply immediately, and I was like, whoa, fan guy or fanboy moment right there. I'm like, wow, the guy actually replied. So I was completely starstruck at that moment. I still am, actually. But enough about that. I want to start off with Mikel Arteta, because it is his birthday today. Our manager. What a turnaround for him. I follow quite a few tactical accounts. NNT is one of them, and EBL. I'm sure you're familiar with a few of them. And I was checking one of their threads where I saw that what was the moment when you thought that Mikel Arteta was the manager? And EBL had this thread where he said it was the third match against Man United, and he's been Arteta in throughout, even with the Villarreal loss and even with everything. And now, obviously, this season with the transfers, with everything, he's turned things around quite a bit. How do you feel about our manager?
Well, first of all, happy birthday to Mikel Arteta. I didn't know that, so before coming on air, you told me that. That's I'm embarrassed to admit that I didn't know that it was his birthday. Look, I first of all, my history. I've been an Arsenal fan for a long time, as you can tell. I've just turned 40. No, I've just turned 40, and so I've been going to to Highbury and to Emirates for many years. And the reason why this is important is because I was a long-standing fan of Arsene Wenger. I always backed him. I gave him all the time. Unai Emery didn't work out, but when Mikel Arteta came in, because he was a past player, because he was a player that I quite liked, I thought, I'm going to stick by this guy. And Unai Emery, I think, took us, a little bit deeper into misery and a little bit deeper into frustration. So for me, when Mikel came on, he had my full support. And the first season, of course, was wonderful, to lead us to Wembley and to win the FA Cup. and then quickly to win the Community Shield straight, 2 months after that against Liverpool. I thought, this guy, he has something about him. He's using this team tactically very astute. We had some really good performances against the big teams that season, and I thought we're only going to go from strength to strength. But of course, last season was massively disappointing. The league finish was low. To be booted out to Villarreal in the Europa League was so disappointing. And then, of course, this season was a chance for us to kind of grow on that and to bounce back. So, like you said, Shahnoor, we went into the summer transfer window. We bought certain players of certain profiles, and then we had to go again. And so he's built all these youngsters. He's got them into the squad. He's tried to sort of engage the club in a new culture, in a new environment that he's talked about for so long. And that, of course, involved a few high-profile departures. So the likes of the club captain, Aubameyang, going in January. And at the time, you'll remember that we were all like, what the hell's he doing? Like, he hasn't got a backup striker. Why are we letting our hitman go? I know he'd been a bit out of form, but all these decisions, now when you look at the league table, kind of make sense. And I guess all I have to say is that Arteta had the stubbornness, but also the desire and the vision to stick that out. And hopefully, with 10, 11 games to go, we're in a really good position to really, secure a top 4 place in Champions League football. And if that happens, it'll be a really successful season, despite obviously losing in the League Cup and the FA Cup. So, look, I'm all in. There wasn't a moment for me. I think, after we'd lost our first 3 games, we were bottom of the league. And Mikel Arteta was the favourite to be the next manager to get the sack in the Premier League. And the writing was on the wall. The club stuck with him. The fans had no choice but to stick with him. A couple of ugly results against Burnley and Norwich, if I remember correctly. Then a big North London derby win against Tottenham. And, recently our form has been really, really tremendous. Since Thomas Partey moved into that 4-3-3 at the base of that midfield,
Yeah.
We've played really well. Even against Manchester City, where we lost at the Emirates, the blueprint was there, that first 45 minutes. So look, I'm very much in love with Mikel. I'm very much, I have faith in him, and I really want him to succeed, Shahnoor. I want to see him take us back to the very top.
Yeah, you touched on a lot of things here. First of all, the first 3 results, and how he was favored to get sacked and how he's turned it around. And lo and behold, this is the year that we're doing the All or Nothing documentary. It's going to be a hell of a documentary. Probably they're going to renew it for another season. But when it comes to understanding what was actually happening, the process, so to speak, the January transfer window where we didn't buy anyone, I do feel that we were in for a striker like Vlahovic, Dusan Vlahovic, but unfortunately that didn't happen. But I personally still feel that it would have been nice to have someone that can give you those 5 extra goals. I still personally feel that not signing anyone in January, because I know we're not in any competition and we got knocked out of everything during that transfer window. So I still feel that there might come a time, because the Premier League, as Arteta has been so adamant, and he's been quite mad about it, the fact that the fixtures, the Man United game and the Chelsea game, they happen back to back, and within the space of a week, he's not happy with that. And you can understand why the Premier League have done it. And Arteta said it very clearly that the only thing I care about is Arsenal. So while you love to hear that as a fan, you also realize that somewhere down the line, he also senses that, I don't have enough players. If, like I said, God forbid, if something were to happen, if he was out with COVID or niggle or something worse, we don't have a Lacazette replacement. And despite all the criticism that Laka has faced this season, especially in recent times, where he's not found his shooting boots, he is still very important to the system, which allows our wide forwards to move forward, which allows our wide forwards space to do what they do. Saka Emil Smith Rowe, even you can say Gabriel Martinelli. So all these guys, they've been in excellent form. And how can we discredit what Odegaard's been doing ever since he's been playing at that number 10 role, so to speak? Although now he plays in a more right central midfield role, which he's dominated quite nicely. You touched on Thomas Partey as well, and I personally feel that while his fitness, him staying fit, has been very key, I also feel that we have to give Granit Xhaka his flowers because he's come into a role which a lot of people will say he's new to. But if you look at his Switzerland career, that's where he plays. So you have Dennis Zakaria at the base of the three, and Xhaka plays on the left. So that actually, when you read on the Athletic that he was supposed to be at the base, Partey was supposed to be at the base. That's what Arteta and Edu had in plan. It all makes sense. But I have one question for you. Do you think we're playing a 4-3-3 yet? I know that's what Arteta wants to do, but I get the feeling that, and I'm not saying we are Bayern Munich, but a bit like how Bayern does their formation with Goretzka and Kimmich, I almost feel like the Partey-Xhaka relationship or in the midfield combo almost acts in that way. I know most of us say that he is at the base and Partey is the DM, but I feel like because he's not an out-and-out traditional DM, Arteta's masterminded his way into fitting both these guys in and getting the best out of them, and they're not conceding silly yellow cards, silly fouls, or red cards, which we were worried about.
Yeah, you make some really excellent points, and I think you've summarized really well. The 4-3-3 is obviously something that we play when we're on the ball, when we're in attack, and you can see Granit Xhaka in a very, very advanced number 8 role. He's almost in line with Gabby Martinelli, who's out wide. And of course, Odegaard on the other side plays in that right half space, and Saka on the right-hand side. So on the ball, Partey is very much the lone man. When we're defending, when the opposition have the ball, then Jorus does drop a little bit deeper and he goes back into that pivot. So the fluidity is there. I think that's something that's key, Shahnoor. Mikel has developed a system and he's still fine-tuning it. He's finding out a lot about these players. He's finding out what their ceilings are. He's finding out where players like to play, where they don't like to play. And Granit Xhaka, like you touched upon, absolutely right. He deserves his flowers. He's been unsung, in my opinion. People who follow me will know that I've loved Granit Xhaka for many years, ever since he arrived. And, every manager has played him. That tells me a lot. He's one of the hardest trainers. He's one of the most professional people in the squad. He's one of the leaders in the squad. And he's never relied on pace. And so actually he can continue at this kind of level, at this capacity. And he's ever present. People forget that. He's physically very robust, rarely gets injured, always there for the team. And despite his brain farts, forgive me for the term, he's a very good player. And up until Partey kind of got into this form, 2-3 months ago, I would say Granit Xhaka was our most consistent midfielder. And so he really does deserve a place in this team. That said, to finish your question, this summer is going to be the next chapter for our rebuild. And we talked about the striker. We talked about going into closing this window without somebody to support Lacazette, which was huge. At the time I was like, what is Mikel doing? He's let Aubameyang go. We had a public pursuit of Dusan Vlahovic. We got played. He joined Juventus. There was nobody else waiting in the wings. And we've gone into the rest of the season an injury away from Eddie Nketiah playing up front. And, I don't want to tempt fate, but, inshallah, we don't have an injury. And Lacazette does manage to last the next sort of 10, 11 games. But, midfield-wise, I think Arteta, that's going to be a serious area for us. I think we desperately need a number 8, a left-sided 8. And obviously it'd be great to have another central midfielder, either to play alongside Partey, who's a bit more physical, a bit more robust, a bit more dynamic, or just cover for Thomas Partey because Lokonga seems a bit raw.
Yeah, Lokonga, at the end of the day, he started the season quite well, but obviously there are elements to his game, maybe a bit more on physicality if he can build a bit more. But I personally see him as that long-term guy who might be replacing Thomas Partey because Partey is no spring chicken himself.
Yeah.
But having said that, and I'll stick a little bit more on this topic before we move on to other topics as well. When it comes to Granit Xhaka, and he's playing right now for Switzerland. England are 2-1 ahead. Harry Kane just scored from the penalty, obviously. So,
Typical.
so two of our most fit players, we have to say. One is Granit Xhaka, although he had this injury this season, and he came back from the injury way earlier than expected. And the other one is Benjamin White, our £50 million signing, who has turned out to be one of the best signings of this season. I wouldn't just say for Arsenal, but overall in the Premier League as well, because nobody expected him to, especially with the start that he had, and he had COVID, and he struggled a bit aerially in the Brentford match, and he opened up about it recently that COVID had an effect on his body. So as a result of which he struggled at first, but he's been so fit. He doesn't miss a single minute of action. He's playing for England today as well. Congrats to him, by the way. I think he's made his England debut today. So
yeah.
my question is that when it comes to a player like Granit Xhaka, would you sell him or would you have him as a backup option?
That's a really good question. If I had to remove my sentiment, i.e. my emotional attachment to Granit Xhaka, I think he's a player that we have to upgrade on, right? So the first team should be stronger with a better left-sided number 8, right? That is for sure. Granit Xhaka, like you said, he's being played slightly out of position. I know he plays that for Switzerland. He plays it well. But I think we would elevate ourselves as a team in the Premier League if we had a better player in that position. So yes, I'd like to see an upgrade because I think I want to see improvement for the team. But I think Granit would definitely have a place in the squad. He's very versatile. He can play left central midfield. He can play slightly advanced. He can, we've seen him drop back at left back, which is, I don't want to see him play there. But I guess what I'm saying is that he has his uses in the squad. And if he's happy to be fighting, for a starting spot and to be sitting out games because there's somebody better than him, I think he's a professional, and I'd love to keep him. So I don't think that's going to happen. By the way, I think if we do buy a top left-sided number 8, I think Granit's going to finally get his move to Italy. But yeah, I'd like to see him stay and be part of the squad.
Yeah, that's a very interesting one. I want to know your opinions as well. I know a lot of Arsenal fans are watching this. I'll go through a few comments. Suzanne, my man, FK. People are tuning in because of you. Ali Jan, massive fan of the firm. Tanvir Mahtab, you've got fans in Bangladesh. And we'll talk more about Bangladesh with you in a bit, I'm sure. Hello, Shahnoor and FK. Looking forward to a great conversation. Rubaiyat Hussain, love your content at the Latte Firm. FK, top notch. Elite, gargantuan.
Man, you guys are too kind.
Susan, FK, any words for Erling Haaland?
All I say, Erling, if you ever want to visit Dhaka, you've got a place to stay. My family, all the doors are open for you. And of course, speaking of doors are open for you at the Emirates as well. So come and join us.
Yeah. Speaking of Dhaka, a lot of you might not know from his content at Latte Firm, Mr. FK is actually of Bangladeshi origin. His parents are Bangladeshi. Do I give the address? Because Erling needs it.
Yeah, look, you're right. My parents are first generation immigrants to the UK. My father and my mother, they were both brought up in Dhaka. And my father is from Mirpur, and my mother's family currently live in Bonani. And ever since childhood, I would travel to Dhaka once, twice a year, every year, without fail. And of course, COVID has hit that, so I haven't been able to visit for 2 years, and I still have my daddy, who's still with us. And I have a lot of family in Bangladesh. I've got lots of chachas and chachis and cousins, and a couple of khalas and mamas. So there's lots of family in Dhaka. I love coming to Dhaka. My favorite food is bhat dal and goshto, as I'm sure you can imagine. Aloo bhatta. Oh my God, I love aloo bhatta. And my ma has just returned from Dhaka, and she brought me Bangladeshi lebu, which is exquisite. I mean, you guys are probably thinking of all the things. She brought back morij bata and she brought back lebu, and I'm a very happy boy. So yeah, Bangladesh is very close to my heart. I spent 7-8 years ago, I was working overseas in Asia, and I was working in Bangladesh in Dhaka for 7 months. It's important to me. I speak Bengali. It's important that my children have that sort of touch point with our culture and heritage. And My wife is also Bengali speaking, so yeah, it's a very, it's a beautiful country. It's my go-to country, and like I said, I love visiting, but I haven't been for a couple of years, so I'd love to come back.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing you, and hopefully
Of
one day,
course, would love to.
one
Would love
day
to.
we can do a show at our studio.
And
with
there's a huge Arsenal fan club in Dhaka. And actually, I had the privilege when I was working overseas 7 8 years ago. I had the privilege of being invited to a couple of screenings, and it was some experience. It was really, it was something that I'll always remember. I'll give you a small example. So in England, when you go to the pub, or if you're watching the game at home, the team is being announced, and you don't really take notice of these things unless you're in the stadium. But I remember going to this screening in a bar somewhere in Dhaka, and just when the team was being announced, people were standing on chairs and screaming their names and clapping, and it was like I just thought to myself, gosh, if we had half this passion, half this energy at the Emirates or at home or in England, the club would be just on another level. So, like, I look forward to it. And if next time I come to Dhaka, I'll definitely take you up on the offer, and we'll head out and watch a game together.
Absolutely. And speaking of the fan base here, there's an official fan group in Bangladesh for Arsenal. It's called Arsenal for Life. If you're on Facebook, I'll do the honor of adding you to it as well. We're
Sure.
very vocal. And speaking of vocal, you know how us Arsenal fans are. We're always, having a back and forth about a whole lot of things. Arteta in, Arteta out.
Happy to.
To
Happy to.
so yeah, definitely. I shared the link in that group as well. So it's a great place actually. I love it. I myself am very outspoken when it comes to Arsenal because I can be annoying on online. I can be that online keyboard warrior who's like, I told you so, but I did tell you so. So from the beginning of the season, for instance, I was like, even when we lost the 3 matches, I was like, you know what? I just have a feeling we're gonna be fighting for top four.
And
So how
bro,
happy we are.
this is the beauty of football, right? It's a moving landscape, and because games are so thick and fast, you're allowed to change your opinion. And if you want to have some satisfaction in being right, then you've earned that. If you stuck through thick and thin, and you had the faith and you had the belief, then you've earned the right to be. You know what? I called it a few months ago. Equally, if you had something wrong, you just have to be, big enough to say, hey, you know what, I called it wrong, and that's fine. It's no problem. We make mistakes all the time. Like I said, football's very unpredictable. There's a phrase in England that they say, just give me one regular day of the Barclays. That's just the phrase that we have because it's so unpredictable. And you have to, I think, be fluid with your opinions and be humble enough to say, you know what, I got it wrong, and I get things wrong all the time. So I know, trust me.
Yeah, yeah. I've lost bets, for instance, where it's been like I've said that Arsenal will finish above Man United, and then Man United somehow ended up finishing above us for the first time in 6 years or something, and I was like, okay, all right. But I never followed through with the bet because it was something like I have to wear a United jersey, and that's never happening.
Good,
So
good.
no, that's on a different level of evil. So yeah, that's not happening. I'm going to go through a few of the comments before we move on to the next section, where we will discuss more about your channel and your upbringing as an Arsenal fan. And then in the last part of this live session, we'll talk about the transfer window and what Arsenal can do in this transfer window, for instance.
Sure.
So. Rubat, love your content and Latte Firm
Thank
FK,
you.
top notch. And Minhas feels that I think Xhaka should stay for at least 2 to 3 years more. Rahul, he's a Liverpool fan, by the way. I know him, Rahul Sattar. So he's a part of our channel.
We all have our problems. It's okay. Don't worry.
So Xhaka could be your James Milner.
Why not? Why not? There is. This is the thing, man. There's a role for all sorts of characters and players in the squad. You can't have all youngsters. You can't have all star boys. You can't have all, hitmen. You need to have different profiles of players to make a squad that you can call upon at different times. So why not? That's a really fine point.
True, that's true. Although I've had a Liverpool fan once say that Saka is our James Milner, he said because he plays in so many positions. That was something. Top banter. So, Minhas, I'm not an Arsenal fan, but still glad to see FK.
Thank
Glad to
you.
know that, Minhas. Fateh, question for FK: who do you see as replacement improvement for Xhaka? Very good question. And I'll add this question as well. Rahul is also
Yeah.
saying before Shahnoor Bhai robs my boy Maxence Kakaret, who I like. He was one of the players that Tifo recommended in their sensible transfers video. FK, note I informed Shahnoor about it. Yeah, he did as well. Yeah.
Look,
So
Maxence is a great player. You know, whether or not he's going to come to England at such a young age, I'm not sure. Although that said, there is another player in France who I really like, and he's Houssem Aouar. I know we were interested a couple of years ago. I know he has some off the pitch or temperament issues, but he's a fine footballer. And if Arteta can get him on side, and if he can, you know, get the best out of him, he would be a fine addition to our team. Moving away from him, actually, I'd like us to look a little closer to home. You know, you guys might have been watching Conor Gallagher at Crystal Palace. He's playing really well. Very, very fit boy. Has the legs on him.
would Chelsea
Um,
sell?
yeah, would Chelsea sell? I don't know. I mean, look, these sanctions they change every day, and Chelsea have a stockpile of talent. You know, Conor Gallagher's also had a very, very good year at Crystal Palace. He's not going to want to sit on the bench at Chelsea, surely. You know, after such an impressive season. And if he's going to be available, then you know, Arsenal being a London team, biggest club in London, you know, Champions League, we have history, we have tradition, you know, we have the money and the profile of player again. You know, you have these youngsters that are gonna want they see Arsenal and they're gonna want to be part of it because it's such an exciting project. So
No,
Conor
that's
Gallagher is one, Jacob Ramsey is another. I really like Jacob Ramsey. Scored a fine goal last night for England under 21s. If you had all the money in the world, you know, I'd go for Jude Bellingham, I'd go for Declan Rice, you know, that sort of player. But I think, you know, it needs to be someone who is dynamic, who is strong. I don't really care about goals. I just think it's about the role and it's about assisting and it's about working hard. It's about being a really good ball player in someone with high level technique and tactically astute. So, you know, those are the core qualities and someone who has something to prove, you know. I mean, I think in the right position you want a proven player like centre forward, but I think in a number 8 position, someone who can come in, learn the ropes, be part of a project and grow with the team. Because you see along the front three, you know, Ødegaard, look exactly the way Ødegaard has done. It would be great to have almost a replica of Ødegaard, but on the left-hand side. So those are the options. I mean, I'm sure there are lots of players on the continent who we could go for. I'm not a football scout. I don't play Football Manager anymore because I'm such an old man. So I don't know all the young hipsters. But those are some of the players that I like. And, you know, Jacob Ramsey and Conor Gallagher, if they were available, they should be the sorts of players that we should go for.
yeah, absolutely. So you personally think that we should be targeting a CM more than a DM
Yeah,
this coming
I
transfer?
think so. I think so because Thomas Partey has shown in the last 2-3 months that he's the best in the business. Yeah, he's as good as it gets, you know, as a number 6. And um, of course, you know, Lokonga is the understudy, and he can watch and he can learn and he can grow physically. He needs to mature and physically grow and develop. And he could be the long-term replacement. And Xhaka can, of course, come in and play that as well if we needed to. But I think going forward, I don't think we get the best of Granit Xhaka in that advanced number 8 position. And I think if we had someone who could play that role better, we would elevate ourselves as a team. So,
Right.
so that's why I think a left central attacking midfielder is probably more important than a holding midfielder. 3 months ago, I would have said to you, Yves Bissouma, just bring me that guy.
Yeah.
He's a fabulous footballer. He's having some off the field issues, I
Exactly.
understand. Or the chap from Monaco, Tukameni, I think his name is, the guy who
So
scored for
many.
France last night. I mean, what a player. He can do it all. But of
Yeah.
course, Real Madrid will be all over him, I'm sure.
Real Madrid. Yeah, they already took the other kid. I forgot his name, but a very talented youngster, 18-year-old Camavinga, Eduardo Camavinga.
Oh,
So they
yeah. I
already
mean,
took Camavinga, and they got
top
him for
player.
peanuts, an 80 million player otherwise because his contract was running out. Right. I want to move to the next part where we talk a bit more about your channel and how you became an Arsenal fan, and like you said, you've been supporting from the George Graham era, probably.
Yeah, just towards the end. So basically, my father, he once had a couple of tickets from work that he got as a complimentary gift. And he was going to give the tickets to his postman because he wasn't hugely into football. And I randomly, apparently when I was 7, said, Dad, why don't we go? It was my birthday coming up on New Year's Eve. So Arsenal were playing Wimbledon at Highbury, and we lost 3-1. And I remember walking home and my dad said, so are you going to support Wimbledon now or what? And I said, no. I was mesmerized, honestly, Shahnoor, by the red kit, similar to what you're wearing now. I was mesmerized by the
Do you
floodlights.
know which year this is from?
O2. That looks so Cesc would have been around. Cesc, that's the Invincibles, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Invincibles.
0304.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
I don't
Who do you have on the
know.
back? The King. The King. It's a fine shirt. But yeah, I was fixated on the red, and that was it. My life changed. And you're right. I've been going Arsenal games since I was a boy. I sold programs at the stadium. I travel home and away. I go to the cup finals, all that sort of stuff. I love it. And the channel basically came out as a result of me being a huge Arsenal fan. It was also COVID. The pandemic hit hard. I wasn't being able to go to games, and I needed my fix. And I thought to myself, you know what? There's a lot of content on YouTube that is for youngsters, that is sensational, that is just not my sort of cup of tea. So I thought, you know what? Just as a something on the side, I'm going to start something as an interest and just see how it grows. And it's been phenomenal. Like, I can't explain it, man. To meet people like you, to have all the comments that you've just shown on screen, it's just been so lovely. Like, it's hugely overwhelming, but it's just good fun. I get to speak to people about football and I love it. So that's how the channel came about. And the name, just in case you're wondering, in England, obviously, English football has a history of firms. And nowadays, if you look at the modern fan, it's, skinny chinos and lattes in hand rather than beers. So I thought, you know what, Latte Firm. It was inspired by a few friends of mine. We found ourselves constantly going to service stations, having a Costa coffee before going to a game, and we sort of joked about being the Latte Firm years and years ago. And I thought, sod it, let's name the channel after that.
Yeah, because when I heard the name, and I think on my Twitter feed, I think one of the journalists, James Bench, maybe he gave you a shout out on his profile when he did a show with you, and he said that check them out. And I think Chris Wheatley as well. I think it was either one of Chris Wheatley or James Bench, and I follow both of them. So that's when I discovered your channel, and when I saw it, and I'm like, wow, this guy speaks very nicely, and he's got a really nice mic setup. I wish I had one of those. So we'll discuss about that after the show.
Sadly, not today, because I'm at my sister's house, and so I'm using my iPhone and her earpods or whatever they're called. So, but normally, yeah, you're right. I have my own microphone, and I'm in a separate.
The voice is still elite, so that's absolutely fine.
You're too kind.
So to be very honest, when I heard and when I saw the show, because I go through a lot of content, Arsenal based. That's my fix basically. When I'm not watching Arsenal play, I'm usually listening to podcasts and on YouTube. So yours was one of them. And when I saw the player breakdowns, especially the Ramsdale one, because there was a lot of negativity when it came to us getting Ramsdale. And you got such a great guest in, and I forgot his name, but he's a goalkeeping expert, and I follow him on Twitter as well. He does some great stuff. And I also discovered that crap from you again, the stats. So some of the things that I thanks to you. But one of the things that I really liked is that all of the guests that you've had, they know their stuff, and I love the fact that you went out of your way to bring the right guest for the right player, because there are other channels that do breakdowns as well, but I found yours to be like just the right amount that I need about a player to understand not just the stats, but also the player's mentality and what the player could bring to our club. So, the Ramsdale one was an example. Tomiyasu one was also great. Nima, I really enjoy his stuff on Twitter as well. Nima's great. But
can I just say, just on that, Shahnoor, and like for anybody who else is watching, if they're creating their own channels, for me, it's not about frequency of content. For me, it's about quality, and I put in a lot of work, for the production. So John Harrison, the goalkeeper analyst that you refer to, is someone that
Rahul just mentioned him in the comment.
That's it, Rahul, absolutely. John Harrison. I didn't know him personally, but before I was I asked a group of friends. I was like, guys, I want to do a goalkeeping breakdown. Who should I approach? I don't want to just get just a journalist on. And a friend of mine, Giles, Grimondi tweets on Twitter. He said, "Oh, get this guy. He does like goalkeeping views and all this sort of stuff." So what I do before I do each show, Shahnoor, I speak to the guest and I say, "Look, this is what I want to cover. This is what I'd like you to kind of cover. And if you feel adequate, then let's go for it." And I prepare all the slides and I make them feel comfortable. And then, of course, we just go with it. And I think that's key. Like, there are lots of platforms out there that will just do features or shows because they need to get content out. But I just want to take my time, get the right person. So all I'm saying is like production is really important to me. And I'm so grateful and so pleased that you've picked up on that and that it's something that you like about my channel, because a lot of effort goes in. So I just wanted to say thank you for that, man. And you know, there's you can gain a lot by just preparing and planning your guests rather than just going for it, you know. So thank you. It means a lot.
Absolutely, and thank you for providing that kind of content, because I myself, since I've been doing this, I can tell that a lot of effort does go into it. Even finding the guests and everything, and yours was different because you had journalists involved. Because I'll be very honest, right? My interaction with like Arsenal-based fan channels was AFTV, and a lot of AFTV is probably not liked at this moment. But I have to say that Robbie, the effort that he's put in building what he's done, you can't deny that he's worked hard for what he's done. Obviously, some of the content has been controversial. Like hypocrisy is there, but that's for a different day. I don't want to go into that. But
Yeah, well, just on that, and sorry to interrupt again, but Robbie and I go back a long time. I knew Robbie the days he was starting up Arsenal Fan TV, and I know everything that he's kind of been through in terms of journey. And you're right on the main point on the head there is that he has worked tremendously hard to grow the channel the way that he has. And also you have to remember that his mantra is that Arsenal Fan TV or AFTV is open to anyone. And that is still the case to today. You go to the Emirates, there is someone on the mic who is willing to interview anybody after a game. But people naturally will find themselves aligned to one or two or three guests that they like for the right or wrong reasons. And sensationalism will always get picked up by rival club fans. So, blaming everything on Robbie, in my opinion, is a little harsh. I'm not saying that you've done that, but of course, you talked about the controversy that the AFTV have been under. I think, and also, ultimately, they have inspired people like me to make my own content. They revolutionized fan involvement many, many years ago. You said that was your main sort of go-to, for a number of years, as it was mine. I used to watch all the AFTV stuff, and even now, some of their content's really good. And their production,
James is amazing.
James is great.
The tactical insight.
Absolutely. So that their production, their ideas, and now of course they have a machine running everything behind the scenes. They're big, and people will have mixed views on them. I understand that, and people will be frustrated about that, and I also understand that. But you've just said it yourself, Shahnoor. When you're in the creator space yourself, you realize just how difficult it can be to make even just the most basic show. And I have a lot of respect for that. But like you say, some of the views, they get more attention than others, and that's just a reflection on society.
Yeah, and from what I've heard from Robbie in interviews as well, he was working full time and he was doing this on the side. So it wasn't like that, he was doing FTV full time and making money because Arsenal were losing. It's never like that. He'd get views if Arsenal won the FA Cup. I think some of his most viewed videos are when we won the FA Cup, we broke the trophy drop. But anyways, fan channels, let's get back to yours, because your content, what was the sort of I would say thinking behind having these sort of particular guests? Like you used to have, or you would regularly have journalists in. So why did you go with journalists?
Yeah, so I've had a Twitter account for 10 years, so that's my handle on screen at fcarnage. And for years and years, I've been following journalists and they've been following me, right? So I had this relationship, unofficially, if you like, with them. So when I decided to start up my channel, like you sent me a message yesterday, I wrote maybe 10 messages to Henry Winter, Mig Delaney, Chris Wheatley, James Benge, all these guys who I'd been following for a long time, and they'd been following me for a long time. And I said, guys, I wanted to create something different, something that's not sensational, something that's just sensible discourse over this club. And I want to have a post-match game, and maybe, every time there's something that's serious that's breaking, maybe I'll have a couple of guests on and we just talk about a topic. And every single one of them was good enough to respond within 1 hour and said, Faiz, just name the date, no problem. And so I had Henry Winter, who is the chief football writer for the Times in England, come on my pilot show. He was good enough to give me an hour of his time because I messed up. I had to do 3 separate takes. And he was very kind, very good with advice. He came on, and that really put me on I don't want to say put me on the map, but when you have a big name like that, it helped people realize that, oh, hang on a second, this guy's just started a channel and he's got Henry Winter on it. So I owe a lot to the connections that I've had, and they regularly keep coming on. And now, I mean, believe it or not, I get DMs at least 7, 10, 12 a day. Can I come on? I'd love to be on the Firm. I'd love to be on the Fans Forum. I'd like to be on the Late Night Lattes, or I'd like to be on the Breakdowns, like anytime. And these are people like, journalists, broadcasters, fans. Like it feels amazing, man. I can't lie. I got really lucky. I used my Twitter sort of account to promote Latte Firm from the start. And so there's a lot of strategy behind it, but hopefully that answers your question. But ultimately, Shahnoor, is I wanted to offer something slightly different. All I'd see was people mocking the club because of certain fans and certain personalities on camera all the time. And I'm never going to be that guy. I'm not going to get a million hits for losing my shit on screen. Like, as I get passionate and I'm upset on a lot of things, but I'm never going to be that guy. So I just wanted to have sensible discussion. And for anybody who wants to watch it, it's there. And I really appreciate that.
Yeah. When it comes to your sort of content, that's what I've been drawn more towards, because when you watch a certain other kind of content, you would actually, and I am, I would be influenced as well, something, and I do lose my shit when I'm watching games. But when you're watching the Arsenal, it's completely
We all do.
normal to do that. Yeah. A little bit more about you before we move on to the last part of the show. So what's the best memory for you as an Arsenal fan? One, and number two is, what's been the worst? And I'll give you an example. Losing to Chelsea under Unai Emery, that final. I had to go and watch that in a watch along with Arsenal fans and Chelsea fans, and that was not good.
Really good questions. I think. Look, obviously any trophy winning the league in 2003-04, going unbeaten, was amazing. But I suppose the highest high in isolation was probably when we beat Hull in the FA Cup in 2014.
14 broke the trophy drought.
Because after everything Arsene Wenger had gone through, and after we built the stadium and we lost our best player year after year, and we were told that we were going to compete, to finally win that trophy. And of course, if you remember the manner of the game, we were 2-0 down.
Yeah,
Santi Cazorla, yeah. Koscielny bundled in an equaliser, and then of course.
And speaking of Koscielny, he retired today. He announced his retirement.
Yeah, he's retired today, and one of our best centre backs of the Emirates era. But that day at Wembley was unbelievable, and I was so happy that I broke my seat at Wembley Stadium and brought it home with me as a souvenir. So it's still at home. I perhaps shouldn't announce that too publicly, but it's there. They aren't going to do anything about it now. My lowest moment, believe it or not, it wasn't Baku. It was actually, I'm a lot older than you, presumably, but going back, 1999.
8 years.
1999, Arsenal played Manchester United at Villa Park, and we had a penalty late in the game. Bergkamp took the penalty. Schmeichel saved it. Giggs went up the other end, of course, as you might remember by watching highlights. And of course, United won the treble that year.
Yeah.
And had we have beaten United, we would absolutely have gone on to win the double that season. No doubt about it. And I think the pendulum would have been well and truly, shifted in our sort of direction. So that's one of my biggest regrets. Paris, of course, in 2006, heartbreak against Barcelona in the Champions League, when when we conceded that second goal, Belletti and Almunia at the near post. I mean, that was really hard to take. And of course, we've had some defeats. I went to the cup final when Liverpool played Arsenal, and Michael Owen scored 2 goals in the last 2 minutes, and that was awful, awful. So I mean, there's been some really low moments, but I wouldn't support any other club, man. It's This club will be the end of me, and the highs are so high, and the lows are devastatingly low. But it's all part of the roller coaster ride.
Right. Speaking of Arsenal, if we do make the Champions League this season, next season, and I've seen a few tactical accounts, they've been quite adamant that we're good enough to, like, with the tactics that Arteta's got us under, we're good enough to be at least in the last 8. How far do you see us going?
One thing that's really annoying is that from when we were in the Champions League, the biggest teams, the biggest clubs aren't as strong as they used to be. It feels like City, Liverpool are the 2 teams to beat. How far can we go? Listen, without trying to avoid your question, it really depends on who we buy in the summer. If we go in with the squad as it is, i.e. no striker, just Lacazette, just Xhaka alongside Partey, no cover for Tomiyasu. I mean, Suarez is doing his best, but if we go in so light, and you look at our subs bench, against Liverpool, we had Nketiah, Hutchison, Okonkwo, like players that you just wouldn't want to put into the first team. Whereas Liverpool had, Salah, Keita, Jota, or Firmino, I think it was off the bench. Like they had, that's the depth that you want. So at this, as things stand, not very far. But I think if we go into the market, and I suppose you're going to ask me about sort of signings, may as well sort of cover it. We need a top centre forward. We need that talisman up front, that killer up front, who's going to elevate us to where we want to be, which is competing for the title. We need, I think, one more wide player that can play either on the left or right, because I don't think Nico Pepe is good enough, and I don't think we can rely on Saka and Martinelli for a whole year, including European campaign. A central midfielder, either to be that left-sided number 8 as a supplement to Xhaka and Partey, would be good. A defensive addition, as a backup sort of right back, it'd be great to see maybe a youngster come through, someone like Livramento from Southampton, possibly Jed Spence. There's been a lot of talk about him from Nottingham Forest.
Norton Coffey, we've got from our academy.
Yeah, Norton Coffey, absolutely. I mean, there's been a lot of hype about him. I don't know if throwing him into the Premier League is going to be maybe one step too far, but definitely keeping a tab on him. William Saliba, of course, comes back, so maybe right-sided centre back. Ben White could play right back if need be, etc., etc. So I think we're good there. I think Bernd Leno might be on his way in the summer, so there's probably going to be room for another
let's
goalkeeper.
Help you out here. I'll share a screen for you. So this is from Transfermarkt, as you can see. So we'll go through player by player, and let's. I mean, obviously Ramsey, we're keeping him. 100%. Leno, most likely.
I'd like to keep him.
But
I think he's going to go.
Because we've got another keeper coming in, Matt Turner.
Yeah.
How much would you be willing to sell Leno for? I know his value is 16 million here, but
it's so difficult to tell. It depends on what clubs come in with. I mean, I'd like to recoup what we paid for him in an ideal world, but I don't think that's going to happen. So yeah, I mean, look, 12, 14 million is probably. But I say that, and then Emi Martinez went for 20 million. So you just never know. I mean, it depends on the buying club. If they're desperate for a goalkeeper, you use that against them. But I think close to, if we can get as close to purchase value, then I'll be very happy.
So they're saying 30 million to Newcastle.
Why? I mean, this is, but that's what I mean, bro. Like, if a money-rich club are mad enough for a goalkeeper and they see the value in him, they will pay up. So who knows? It's a really difficult one to predict.
Yeah, Okonkwo, loan or keep?
Yeah, I think loan. He needs to play football. He's not going to achieve anything by being on the bench every now and again and playing in the under 23. So definite loan.
Yeah. Ben White, we're keeping him.
Yep.
I have a question about Gabriel. Do you personally feel that we should look to upgrade on him? Like, I'm not saying sell him, but have him as a backup option.
No, he needs to be the starter. He and Ben White together are phenomenal, and It's up to Saliba now to come back into the squad and prove that he's good enough to start ahead of either of them. But at the same time, if you're going to be in the Champions League and you want to play
You
for the
need
biggest
depth.
honours, you need that depth. So those three have to be our starting three, and I'd keep Rob Holding because as a squad player, you don't get many better.
Speaking of Saliba, do you think like there are rumors that he might be sold? Arteta's been big on players with the right mentality for the club. So, do you personally feel that this could be something? Saliba could be on his way.
I hope not because I love what I'm hearing about him. But Arteta's proved that if you go against him, you're going against the club, and so there might be something there. But I sincerely hope he comes back, signs a new contract, and then of course is part of the squad.
Moving on, obviously we're keeping Kieran Tierney. No need to sell our next captain, Nuno
Absolutely.
Tavares. What do you feel about Nuno Tavares?
I like him. I think he's young, he's raw, he's got a lot to learn. Obviously had a really bad game at Nottingham Forest, but I think he has a future, and I'd like to see him stay as backup to Kieran.
All right, and moving on to Cedric. This is because we're keeping Tomiyasu, but
Yep.
you want a backup for Tomiyasu. So we were just discussing Norton Coffee, or do you keep Cedric, or do you sell Cedric? Do you get someone else, maybe a Livramento, or what do you want to do?
I don't want to keep Cedric and bring in somebody else. I think if Cedric goes, if we either terminate his contract or someone comes in with a 2, 3, 5 million pound offer, he has to go. I think we can do better. Tomiyasu's repetitive muscle, soft tissue injuries don't fill me with too much encouragement. So I'd like to see someone young and promising come in, but if Cedric is on the contract and we can't shift him, we'll keep him.
Yeah. We've already talked about Xhaka. Elneny, he's leaving. Obviously,
Has to go.
we're
Yeah, has
not
to
we're
go.
not renewing his contract. We'll see probably more of Sambi because we will be in Europe, whether it's the UCL or the UEL. God forbid, I hope we make the UCL. Saka, obviously, we need to sort his contract out. Is that the top priority this summer?
Oh, 100%. I mean, Bukayo Saka is just wonderful. One of the most talented players I've seen in a long time. There is a case to be argued maybe he's the best player Arsenal's academy has ever produced because of everything he represents off the pitch and just what his ceiling is. So we absolutely have to tie him down. I think the club is making progress. 125,000 a week for a 4 or 5 year deal is perfect, and that's what you want. You want your best players to stay. So absolutely.
Yeah. Moving on, obviously, Odegaard, Smith Rowe, they're staying. Martinelli, Pepe. If we talk about Pepe, Pepe scores a really good goal in a different system, but for some reason he doesn't suit Arteta's juego de position, as we say it, right? He doesn't suit this positional play. So how much do you think we could recoup for Pepe if we did sell him?
That's a horrible question because we paid so much money for him. But look, at this stage, if he's not going to be a regular in the Arsenal team and Arteta won't even give him more than 10, 15 minutes a game, there's no point in hanging on to him. So if someone came in with even as low as 30, 35 million, half price, I would take it because it frees up his wages, it frees up a non-EU spot in the squad, and it gives us 30, 35 million pounds to go out and get somebody else. So, look, reluctantly, because I think his talent is there. I just think his application, his execution, his lack of sort of work off the ball, his intelligence is lacking, and it's sometimes it just doesn't work out. So I hope, like last night, scored a marvelous goal against France. So he's clearly got the ability, but it's just not going to work out for him here.
Yeah, off the ball, his issues are very evident. His movement and his intelligence overall, I think it just doesn't work out for us. Obviously, Lacazette is a big talking point. A lot of people are saying Fateh Mubin is saying Laka to Lyon or 1 year contract extension. What do you do?
I'd love to keep Laka for a year. I just think if I'm in his shoes,
on lowered wages.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. I mean, if I'm in his shoes, if Arsenal turn around and say, "Look, here's 1 year for 125,000 a week instead of the 182 that he's on now," why would you sign it? Because if Leon have got a 3-year contract on the table, the only thing I can think of, bro, is that he can go to France in a year's time and still get that 3-year contract, or go to the MLS or whatever is wherever he wants to go. But I'm just not sure he's going to want to stick around at a lower wage to be second, third fiddle, when he can be the main man in his home country on a long-term contract that's going to be more than what he's paid now.
Right. And the last player, obviously, Eddie Nketiah. What do
He
you
has to
do?
go. Has to go. I have a very irrational dislike for him. I don't know what it is. I've never liked him. I don't think he does enough for Arsenal. He's just not good enough. He's nowhere near the level that Arsenal want to be. And if we sign him to a new long-term contract, I think he's going to be one of those players that just stinks the place out and just stays for year after year. We have to get rid, even if it means cutting our losses and letting him go on a free.
Wow.
Release up a squad space, promote Flo Balogun, and just move on.
Yeah, and obviously, let's just touch a bit about Mikel, because he is nearing the end of his contract. 2 years. He got an extension, so his contract runs out in 2023, I believe, in a year.
Yeah,
So, do you give him the extension, regardless of where we finish?
yeah. Because for me, assessing football progression is not a linear activity, bro. It's not. You don't just look at the league table and say, right, they've gone from 8th to 6th, so it's improvement, or 8th to 9th, and it's a failure. I think when you consider the Arsenal project and the culture that he wanted to implement, the big profile toxicity he wanted to get rid of, the youngsters coming through the academy and implementing them into the team, changing the playing style, building that connection with the fans, increasing that camaraderie in between the squad. I mean, you look at the team now and you think they're such a likable bunch of boys. 98, 99% of the fan base are completely behind this team and manager. So all of those aspects, are on par with what we're doing on the pitch. And of course, what we're doing on the pitch since last 10, 12, 13 games has been fabulous. So I would sign him up, and he's a young manager, and he is doing something special. I really believe that this project is going to explode, man. As soon as we
Yeah,
get that top number 9, if we
yeah,
can add a wide player and some of the players that we've talked about, the
exactly.
project is going to explode. So for me, it's
Uh,
an absolute no-brainer.
Yeah. Speaking of the project and it exploding, you've got 180 million, as there are rumors. Arsenal are going to spend 180 million. The owners are going to back the club, and the owners have been better. To be very honest, they've been pretty decent. They're learning from their past mistakes, or else they would have sold the club when the fan riots were happening. And that's my take on it. I'm not going to detail too much on it because we're nearing the end. But if you have 180 million to spend without any money that you generate from player sales, what are the signings that you get for Arsenal?
Oh, what a question! I mean, is this just a wish list? I mean, irrelevant of. I mean, look, if we get Champions League and we've got so much money to spend and a huge wage budget, you have to go for Erling Haaland. You have to. You can't not be part of that race. We have Odegaard, we have London, we have Arsenal, we have Champions League. What a project, and we can pay him what he wants. Simple as that. So you have to go for Erling. Failing that, there are other strikers in the market. You can look at Darwin Nunez, you can look at Joao Felix, you can look at maybe Gabriel Jesus from Manchester City. There'll be one or two others, Dominic
Is a
Calvert-Lewin,
Joao
etc.
Felix breakdown coming very soon?
Yeah, well, potentially. There's Victor Osimhen at Napoli.
Yeah,
There are some very, very good forwards out there that would
yeah.
all elevate us. Central midfielder,
Tammy.
that so 75, 80 million on Haaland, because that's the release clause. I think you go for, I'd go Houssem Aouar, 20, 25 million. He's got a year to go on his contract. I'll probably let him go. Yves Bissouma, if we've got spare change left over. And then, a right back, you can get a young right back, maybe Max Aarons. If Norwich City go down,
Yeah,
someone like him for sort of 10 million. I don't know. I mean, look, there's so many options, but I think if we couldn't get a striker of Haaland's quality, then I'd probably blow the lot on a left-sided 8. Go just push the boat out for someone like Jude Bellingham, Declan Rice, Conor Gallagher. Jacob Ramsey. He'll probably go 40, 50 million pounds. You're getting a player for a long, long long time. So there's lots of options out there. Let's just hope we have the money.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we'll have the money, and I completely trust Mikkel and his talent ID. The only worry is that how Edu is going to do with negotiations, because we've seen certain issues with Edu's negotiation. Even last window where he wanted to get Arthur in for a year and a half loan, and the club didn't like it. So, anyways, FK, I know you've got to go. I hope
I'm
you've
so sorry.
enjoyed.
I'm visiting my sister with my family, and it's bedtime for the kids. I can hear them screaming in the background. That's my one responsibility today. But thank you so much for having me on. I've had so much fun.
No, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you. The hour just flew by. Definitely would love to have you in again and talk about all
Sure.
things Arsenal. Hopefully, when we finish top four, and of course, would definitely love to come over to the Latte Firm one day. That'd be a dream. So,
Sure.
do
Why
let
not?
me know.
Let's make it happen. Let's make it happen. Keep in touch with me.
Absolutely will. FK, once again, it's an absolute pleasure. Take care, brother.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Look after yourself. Enjoy the rest of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. Goodbye from our side. And with that being said, আজকের মতো এখানে, if you didn't know, FK stands for, and I'll give you his name. উনি হচ্ছেন Faisal Khan. So he usually goes by the name FK. আমি জানতাম না উনি বাংলাদেশে। When I spoke yesterday, গতকাল যখন Twitter, and I discovered that Twitter you can actually message people. That's me basically. So তখন আর কি I discovered that you can message him and he replied, and lo and behold, I'm like, let's do a show together. He's one of my favorite content creators out there, and I hope that he continues to deliver in terms of amazing content. Hopefully, down the line we'll see more. If you haven't seen his page, if you haven't seen his channel, do visit it. It's a Latte Firm. আমার অনেক প্রিয় একটা channel, so do check it out, especially if you're into player breakdowns. It's got probably the best player breakdowns out there, যে কোন প্লেয়ার কিরকম হতে পারে, because us Arsenal fans, আমরা যখন একটা প্লেয়ারের সাথে লিঙ্ক হই, we go crazy about it. So do check it out. So আজকের মতো that's it from us. We'll see you again very very soon, and hopefully I'll have someone else special. And আজকের শোয়ের নাম, as I'm trying to call it, All Out Arsenal. Let me know if you guys like the name All Out Arsenal. তাহলে showing একটা logo and maybe an intro and everything, we'll create it. So yeah. Anyways, guys, our কয়েকটা comment নিয়ে pleasure to see FK. Latte Firm and Arsenal is on a special journey together. Suzanne is saying, Rahul saying, Pepe, Oli swap deal, make it happen. That would be something. So anyways, guys, thank you so much for the comments, for the support. Hopefully, if you guys have liked this video, do like it, do share it. I'll try and bring more and more Arsenal-based content creators in our channel, and talk to them, and also get closer to Arsenal. Maybe from there also move on to some Arsenal-related or Arsenal-based journalists as well. Whoever you guys want, just let us know. So it's been great. I mean, got that content that I've been in a fanboy mode, so I'm gonna thank him again for joining. So this show, for instance, it doesn't have an intro and an outro. I'm cheetah কোন video বাজাবো. So anyways, this is মানে একদম what do you call it, like abrupt একটা ending হবে showতে. Anyways, guys, goodbye.